What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into the CHGO Bulls podcast, coming to you live on Friday afternoon. I am Peck Bulls_Peck, joined by Big Day BAWL Sports. Our guy behind the controls is the one and only Joey Spathis at Joey Spathis. Goats off today, jetted down to Cabo for a wedding. Big Dave, where's the coolest place you've ever gone for a wedding?
Oh, that's a great question. Coolest place I've ever gone for a wedding. I don't know, probably the one I was in, but it was in St. Charles, though.
St. Charles, like the suburb?
Illinois. Yeah, like the suburb. Yeah. It was cool out there. It was cool as hell. I had a great weekend. Some stuff I won't elaborate on, but it was a great weekend though. Shout out to my guy Ivan. Shout out to Nicole. I was in the wedding. It was great. It was a beautiful hotel that they got married in. They got married outside. The weather was perfect. Just had a blast. It was probably the most fun time I've had at a wedding. I've been to weddings and I went to one in Minnesota and I kind of crashed it, but nobody said anything and it was all love. And I went to one in Texas. I wasn't invited, but I was dating a girl who was friends with the actual bride. So I went with them and had a blast there. I told you though, I love weddings. Like I'll go anywhere for a wedding and just have a great time. So how about you?
Did a Cancun wedding once. That was fun.
Oh, nice.
Upstate New York, up in the Catskills. That was a gorgeous one. That was my cousin's wedding.
Okay.
Shout out Josh and Jillian. But yeah. Wait, so when you say you were in this wedding, were you in the bridal party or were you the officiant? Because I feel like you would make a great wedding officiant.
No, I was in the party. My friend Ivan, shout out to him, man. He and I, that's one of my good friends. He came to you met him. He came to watch a game with us.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's one of my good friends, and when he asked me to be in it, it was absolutely I was in it, and yeah, I looked amazing because I saw my suit and that tux I had on. It was stupid how good I looked. It really was. When you're walking down the aisle and people are like, "Damn, all right," you're like, "Yeah, that's right," right? Like
as opposed to the rest of the time when you also look amazing.
No, it's true. Well, I'm not going to take away from that, but you do have those moments where you just like, damn, you know what? This is really working right here. I'm feeling this right now. Like your whole setup like you got right now, with the summer pack, because you can wear something and look cool, Matt, but what you have on, you believe right now. Because this is summer pack right here all day long with the beverage included. This is summer pack, sir. Look at him.
Clear eyes, full hearts. Full CHGO Bulls beer pint glass. Can't lose.
Wait, when's the last time you bought another tank top? Has it been a while?
I think this is actually one of the more recent ones I bought. I didn't buy a new shorts tank top when I was up in Michigan last weekend because they didn't make a new one yet this season. I'm hoping that will change when I go back up there later this summer because you can never have too many tank tops, Dave.
That's what you have taught me, Matt.
and I missed the Cubs tank top giveaway at Wrigley earlier. They already did it earlier this season, and I was out of town for that one. So I'm very jealous of some of my friends who went and got themselves a fresh Cubs tank.
It'll be back around.
You know who else loves a good tank is our friend Cody from CHGO Cubs.
Oh, yes, he does. You tell no lies about that. Cody loves a good tank top right there, sir. Absolutely. Shout out to 120 Club.
So as I see people in the comments already talking about it, we are going to talk about this trade proposal that we got from ESPN's NBA front office insider Bobby Marks on a column he dropped for ESPN Plus earlier today, sending Zach LaVine to the Utah Jazz for a couple of players that we'll talk about. But before that, I wanted to get your reaction on Game 1 of the NBA Finals last night, Big Dave. The Celtics protect home court out of the gate. They beat the Mavs 107-89. Mavs made themselves a little bit of a comeback in the third quarter, got it to, I think, as little as 8 points before the Celtics just ran away with it. Big storyline, of course, was Kristaps Porzingis coming back from his injury, coming off the bench, but he dropped a solid game off the bench, 20 points, 6 boards. He had 3 blocks. What did you make of that Game 1 Celtics triumph?
It was kind of how I expected it to go. I didn't expect a close game. I thought it was going to be a beat down by Boston. They're the better team. They've been the best team in the NBA. Like if you're remove conferences, like they're the best team. Like it's the bottom line of it. They are the best team. So I'm not really surprised about it, Matt. The surprising thing was probably Porzingis coming back and just being, that dominant, because I'm not used to watching him be that dominant on both sides of the floor. Like, he really controlled it in that second quarter. That was his game in that second quarter, man. So I had never really seen him like that. So that was really cool to see, to be honest, to, be off that long, come back in the finals, and that's what you do. That's not a norm. Also, it's not a norm that Luka played the way he did. I thought he played horrible, especially in that first half, but he got it together in that second half. But he only had like one assist because they couldn't score.
One assist.
Yeah, guys was freaking everything, One.
Mavs shot 41.5% from the field and 26% on threes.
Yeah, that's not the norm for them. You know what I mean? So I'm not surprised. Kyrie Irving, you can tell he's still exercising some demons down there in Boston, man.
6 for 19 from the field for Kyrie, 0 of 5 from downtown.
Yeah, man, he was missing some wide open threes that we just know that he can hit. So I'm not really surprised. I expect the adjustment to come in game 2 or even game 3, because I wouldn't be surprised if Boston went up 2-0 either. So I would expect the adjustment to come either this next game or the game after. But kudos and tip your cap, though, to Boston, man. They came out definitely more ferocious and more physical. And it's easy to do that when you're shooting like they do from the three-point line.
Yeah, Boston, I mean, they followed their script to a T. They shot 38.5% on a huge volume. I think they took 42 threes last night, hit 16 of them. Shout out and condolences to Vaughn in the comments. You said Luka only got 1 assist because I bet that he gets 7. I mean, it happens. You don't really expect to see a 1 in the assist column ever for Luka.
Ever.
But yeah, people were hitting their shots. And the other thing, it's one game. I think they could still get it together, but it's crazy to watch Luka and Kyrie combine for 7 turnovers in this game 1 last night when they picked apart the elite Minnesota defense in that series prior. Picked apart. And I'm not saying the Celtics defense is scrubs. The Celtics also have an elite defense, but Minnesota's Minnesota. And Luka and Kyrie just took turns eviscerating that once vaunted defense. They were both careless with the ball last night. It cost them.
No, you're absolutely right, man. You hit it right on the head. They both were careless and sloppy and not making shots that we're used to seeing them hit. Even when Luka was getting to the free throw lines, he wasn't great there. Like, everything just kind of went wrong. And I just like how Boston came out. They were very prepared. They were ready for the moment on both sides of the ball. They just dominated them on the guards, the big men. They gave Daniel Gafford and Lively all kinds of fits. Lively had 5 fouls in the third quarter. Like, they gave them all kinds of fits. And that's what you expect from a team that's a championship pedigree type team. They've been there so many times and been in this position. This is all kind of new for Dallas. So they just Dallas, I just think, will calm down. We'll get it together. I think Kidd will come up with a good game plan to reverse some of those things. But at the very most, they will hit those shots that we kind of saw them missing. And I think it might be a closer game. Again, I won't be surprised if Boston wins game 2. I won't be shocked at all. But I think you'll see a better performance from Dallas.
Mac Mon in the comments saying Kyrie will be the Karl Anthony Towns of the finals. Fish saying even at the beginning of the season, Luka would have gotten 50% of those calls, but I love the refs allowing some physical defense. And we'll see if the physicality escalates as we move forward through this series. The other thing that I think will be, a bit scary from the Mavericks perspective is you got blown out last night and Tatum scored 16 on 6 of 16 from the field.
Yeah.
They didn't even Tatum was doing his thing where he'll drive and dish to one of the 18,000 3-point shooters that the Celtics have available to them. But there's also the version of Jason Tatum. And I know some NBA fans debate vigorously on whether or not he is in that upper echelon of super, super duper star, top 5 player in the NBA kind of tag on Tatum. Not everybody buys that. We have seen playoff performances from Jason Tatum where he just goes off and says, I'm taking over this game. I'm dropping 40.
Yeah, without a doubt, you've seen it. And it's weird because I saw his stat. I don't remember the record of how many games, but when he shoots under 40%, they're undefeated in these playoffs. It's like they're 5-0 or 6-0 or something like that. It's so strange and weird. But you're right. To play like that and your best player not have that kind of a performance, And to be honest with you, he hasn't really been consistently having that performance here in the playoffs. It's been Jaylen Brown, which is why he was the finals MVP. Not to say Tatum ain't been balling and doing his thing. It's just that Brown has really kind of stood out a little bit more. But you're right. Tatum's going to get it together, Matt, one of these games. And Dallas is going to have to figure that out and adjust for that. Because the one thing you mentioned, Minnesota's defense, the one thing that helps Boston more is they have the better backcourt defenders. Mm-hmm. I think Drew Holiday is a better defender than Edwards is. You know what I mean? They match up size-wise with those guys too. So they literally have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys they can put, you know what I'm saying, at any time on those guards, you know? Yeah. So that's a problem. You know what I'm saying? That is a true issue. And on the other end of the floor, they're just going to switch out Luka and get him on Porzingis, or switch out Kyrie and get him on Porzingis and run that play kind of all day long. So, yeah, they got to change their game plan up, and they're going to need some more help. It's kind of why you saw Tim Hardaway Jr. actually get some tick when I think he should never play again, but I understand it's the finals. I wonder if Markieff Morris gets some playing time in this series. Maybe they need a little toughness. I don't know. That's why they get paid, to figure that stuff out. But I just get paid to talk about it and say, y'all guys got to be better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people kept saying in the Dallas Minnesota series, whichever team's 2 stars play better is going to win that series, and turned out to be true. Luka and Kyrie outplayed and Towns in that series. And I feel like you could say the same thing about the Celtics. And in game 1, none of those 4 stars between Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Luka, and Kyrie had a particularly good game. None of them were particularly efficient. Luka, I think, was the closest you could say to having a good game, despite the only 1 assist. He still managed, after you mentioned the slow start, dropped 30 points on nearly 50% shooting, 4 of 12 from downtown. Okay, not great. But the 1 star who had kind of a star stat line was on the team that lost by 20.
Right. Oh, that's a great point. That's a great point. And the one thing that he does well didn't show up, which was the assist in there. Mm-hmm. Bro, they scored 89 points. That is wild for Dallas to score 89 points. Luka himself.
That better or worse than the Bulls' final score against the Heat in the second playing game? I can't remember.
Listen, you can't poo-poo on the 42 and then bring that up at the end. You can't have both sides. Come on, man. But I would Luka. We watched Luka score like 73. You know what I'm saying? Like by himself, and for them to have just 89, it was just tough. But I do like I agree with Fish about the refs, because Luka was doing a lot of complaining, as he usually does. Mm-hmm. I think that'll catch up. You know what I mean? Because again, they're at home. They're in Boston. It's going to be a little bit different with those calls, and they're going to have to figure that out. Boston is an institution, and them getting calls has been going on since the 70s. So like, this isn't going to change. You know what I'm saying? So they have to hit shots. They honestly, like you pointed out, Matt, they had an opportunity when they cut that lead to 8. Like, they had an opportunity to cut into it even further, but they could not make a bucket after that kind of run that Luka went on, and they were hitting some shots and things. So they had a chance. They couldn't do it. I remember the steal Kyrie got where he was wide open for 3 and he just bricked it. The ball just swung around. Derrick Jones Jr. was bricking everything. Like, they just none of those guys kind of brought it, for them. And they're going to have to do that in game 2, man, to keep this close. Because Boston's no joke. Seriously.
Boston's no joke. Red Auerbach still pulling those strings. The ghost of Red Auerbach still pulling those strings. Let's knock out our first ad break. Then we'll come back and dive into the juicy column that Bobby Marks dropped on ESPN Plus earlier today, talking about teams that could make big offseason moves. Spoiler alert, the Bulls were the first team on the list. We will get to that on the other side. Hit that like button while we're sharing these words from our sponsors. Make sure you're also subscribed to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel if you aren't already. First sponsor on deck today is our friends at Circa. Check out that Circa Sportsbook app, offering the tight money line splits and low hold model. Games always striving to be at minus 110 odds out of the gate, whether you're picking over-under on point totals, on spreads, money lines. Unlike a lot of other sports books these days who push those starting odds to minus 115 or minus 120 for no reason at all. Not a single reason, Dave. But not Circa. You'll almost always see those starting odds at minus 110. They also don't limit their players based on recent winnings, unlike other sports books who do. Every single player has the same limits unlike other sports books who limit those players on the hot streaks. And when you're on a hot streak, you want to keep that hot streak going. Of course, we also know that they have unparalleled, unbeatable customer service in the sports gaming world. Real people behind that Circus Sports app who resolve any issues you might have in a timely fashion, unlike their competitors who'd use the dreaded chatbots. Watch Terminator, watch the whole series, learn a thing or two, and then appreciate human engagement and human help when it comes to customer service. You can always count on that from Circa Sportsbook. Download that Circa Sports Illinois app today at circasports.com/Illinois-app and sign up. Also be on the lookout for Circa's various events, watch parties, and tailgates. Always hanging out with our Cubs crew on the Friday 120 Club at Murphy's and then in the bleachers. If you or someone you know may have a gambling problem, just call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. Text GAMB to 833-234. Visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Summer Peck is in full effect, ladies and gentlemen. And since that's the case, that means Sunnyside is also in full effect. Summer Peck plus Shady Rays plus Coors Light plus Sunnyside equals a very, very happy human being for the next few months. And you can be part of that too, because Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are allowed to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality hydroponics in the city. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. One-stop shop is what it is for all your cannabis needs. Sunnyside has expertly curated menu with over 100 strains to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary with locations in the city like Wrigleyville or River North, or all the way out to the suburbs like Champaign, South Beloit, and many more spots. So all you got to do is head to sunnyside.shop, use that code HICHGO at checkout, and what you're going to get is 35% off your favorite brands like Cresco, Good News, and more to elevate your first purchase. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day. Only for 21 and over or Illinois Met card holders.
All right, diving into this from Bobby Marks, NBA front office insider for ESPN, ESPNplus.com earlier this morning. Headline, NBA free agency and teams that could make big off-season moves. You know what the feature image graphic is for this Bobby Marks column? Because it's Zach LaVine standing next to DeMar DeRozan.
It is.
First team on Bobby Marks' list, in case you missed it, is our beloved Bulls. He starts by quoting something AK said at his season-ending press conference about how this group doesn't work. We've done it for a couple of years, and it hasn't worked. Everything is on the table. And then Marks chimes in saying, Karnisovas' thinking is correct, but how does Chicago go about changing its roster without taking two steps back? As the Bulls' most productive player, DeMar DeRozan, is a free agent, and their highest-paid player, Zach LaVine, had season-ending foot surgery in February. He then goes on to say, Joey, if you will, talking about some Bulls opportunities and possible avenues to explore that they could benefit if teams with salary cap space, such as the Detroit Pistons, miss out in free agency, referring to finding a taker for Zach LaVine. A salary dump to the Pistons gives Chicago financial flexibility by avoiding the luxury tax to re-sign DeRozan and restricted free agent Patrick Williams, while also having that $12.9 million non-tax paying mid-level exception. And then he says, but do these changes represent the status quo AK said he was vowing to change? Well, rhetorical question, I think, there for Bobby Marks. We can get to the trade proposal, but before that, anything that piques your curiosity from how Marks is evaluating the Bulls' offseason outlook from an outsider's perspective, Dave?
Well, one, he feels like he's taking AK kind of at his word, which us on the inside, we're like, I don't know.
You sure about that?
Yeah, like, yeah.
Sure about that?
Like, I know he said that. Like I heard, no, you're right. He did. He said it. But we'll see, so it's funny when you hear these things that you can tell the ones who haven't been scorned or, have dealt with certain pain, and that it comes with being a fan of the beloved. But it is what it is. So that kind of stood out to me, and him approaching it from a logical standpoint. stands out to me as well. But as you know, Matt, there is emotion involved in some of these teams because it feels like this front office is kind of tied to a couple of these players, specifically a guy like DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah. Real quick, shout out to our friend Drewish, who's wishing everybody in Bulls Nation a happy Friday and a happy weekend. Also, shout out to CJ Artiste. Hope your day improves, buddy. Thank you for joining us. You are here with your fellow Bulls fans. So,
yes.
Hey, misery loves company, right? But so the other thing that Mark's talked about is how LaVine's market is still, at least from his perspective, unpredictable. That's the word he used. Finding a team to take on that $43 million salary for the 24-25 season could present a challenge, Mark said. That's putting it lightly. He also reminded us in this column about the new CBA rules about teams making trades who are above the first or second apron of the luxury tax. The new apron rule restricts teams from taking back more money in a trade if the incoming salary would put them over either the first or second apron. Also, teams in the second apron aren't allowed to aggregate contract salaries sent out in trades. So that basically just condenses the number of teams that the Bulls can make a deal for when it comes to Zach LaVine and his very significantly sized contract, which is why you're basically looking at teams who are not in that first, second apron area and have cap space available to take in a contract of Zach's size.
Well, man, let me tell you right there. Joey said he's got everything straight. He wants to throw the graphic up for you.
There we go.
Right there, sir. Just so people could see it. You know, I know Matt in the dulcet tones. You know what I'm saying? It's always good to hear him break it on down. But just so everybody kind of has a visualization of what he was saying right there. Just wanted you to get a good look at that. Like I said, avoiding that luxury tax to re-sign DeRozan, restricted free agent Patrick Williams.
Hey, Pistons, you want Zach LaVine?
Do you? Do you need it, man? Oh, man. And Matt, I think what always makes this interesting for me is when teams you want to trade to, of course, there are teams I want to trade with, but sometimes you have to go with the teams that are in your face. You know what I'm saying? The ones that you can actually deal with. And it feels like the Pistons are always there. Like, and I'm talking about like since the 2000s. I'm thinking like Ben Gordon. You know what I'm saying? Like the Pistons are always there and readily available to make this trade. And they made no secret that they've wanted certain guys from the Bulls before. Patrick Williams is definitely a guy they kind of coveted and kind of wanted. And it feels like Zach LaVine could end up being a team with Detroit. I don't want him to. I'd rather send him somewhere else and let him you work that out somewhere else where I got to see him twice a year. I could deal with that, but keeping him in the same division. And I know that doesn't mean much to you or a lot of other people about keeping him in the same division and things like that. But I just don't like doing it. But it just trips me out when I see the teams that you have to trade with are always the lottery pick teams, you know, like that's it. That's how you're always having. And we're not on that level where we can make those trades with these other bigger market teams or teams that are actually making these true moves out here. It just sucks that we're kind of in this position right here with Zach LaVine and that extra $43 million. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. You know what I'm saying? Right there, man. And I think also, Matt, my question, and you can answer this, if Zach LaVine is, I shouldn't say a better player, I'll say a healthier player. If Zach LaVine is a healthier player, how much does that $43 million come into consideration? You know what I'm saying? When we're talking about these teams, like how many teams do you think would just be willing to bite the bullet and just take Zach LaVine because of the pure talent that this dude who can put up a 50, 40, 80 season for you can have?
And look, I mean, I know Bulls fans are now more than ever, I think, saying, look, Zach LaVine is not worth this contract the Bulls signed him to, and they're trying to get off of it. And even someone who said 2 summers ago the Bulls should sign Zach to that max deal. Like it's the best of a bunch of shitty options to just sign Zach to that deal. And then if he wants to move or they want to move him, we'll figure it out later. And now we're here. But a healthy version of Zach LaVine, who, like you said, could be a 50, 40, 90 guy. It could be a 25, 5-5 guy, 2-time All-Star. $43 million is not that much money for a player like that in today's NBA salary cap math. You take a look at some of these new caps that they're projecting with the new TV rights deal that is almost nearly fully signed, crossed T's, dotted I's, with NBC, Amazon, and ESPN/ABC, you're talking about the next wave of max and supermax players getting salaries that are approaching $100 million for one season. 80 mil, 85 mil. So look, yeah, does it sound like a lot to say that Zach has 3 years and $138 million left on his contract right now? It does. It sounds gross. But if there is a healthy 25-5-5 version of Zach or something close to it, I think plenty of teams around the league would say that's a player worth $43 million. That's like maybe a bit of a stretch, but that's the salary cap math that exists now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it would put to bed, of course, when you're injured or those kind of things like that, other things come up like your personality, how you act on the team. Like those things come up only when a player is showing that kind of injury. It doesn't come up when you're putting up those kind of numbers like that. Like even if it does, teams aren't really tripping on it. Like they're like, okay, great. I understand. Maybe it's just a situation. He hasn't been in whatever. The problem with Zach is it's been a perfect storm of bad, to come his way. Matt, like the injuries happening, your team playing better without you, the dust up you had, with Bulls PR on the sideline, like all of those things. And then of course your team not winning and you not being considered a winning player, and you finally winning 4 games in a row 2 years ago for the first time of your career.
And then your team starting to play a little bit better when you get hurt and go to the sideline.
Yeah. When you're not there, they look better. Kobe White becomes second most improved player award nominee. You know what I'm saying? He becomes second in that voting. How much of that is with you not being there with the team? So all of that stuff comes into consideration, and I think it's strictly because of injury. Because like you just said, and that's why I was asking you the question, because I wanted to know how you felt on that. That money won't matter if you're balling. They're like, okay, we pay money for ballers. It's the NBA. This is what we pay for. It's somebody who can get out there and do their thing. And the problem, man, is you and I both know Zach can get out there and do his thing. Mm-hmm. We've seen it. We watched it. That's why we advocated so much when it was time for him to sign that contract, because he can ball. That dude can get in and play some basketball. But man, it was just a perfect storm of bad that hit him everywhere from every place, making the wrong decision, sitting at the game, with Clutch Sports, rocking the hoodies. Nothing worked right. You know what I'm saying? Doing this storm of bad for Zach, man. And it just feels like it's might be that time to, move on, which sucks.
I think we found ourselves our next catchphrase for Bulls basketball: perfect storm of bad. Hey, at least it's a bit more interesting and like mysterious than just continuity or competitive. Kyle, what's up, buddy? In the comments. Also, people in the comments wondering, Anthony, some dark horse teams with a Zach LaVine trade. Anthony bringing up the Kings. Of course, we've always heard about the, Herter and Barnes deal, maybe a pick involved. Anthony also suggesting Philly, Houston, Orlando, teams that have come up before. I don't think we've talked about Houston. We've talked about the others. But do you want to get to the juicy stuff from Bobby Marks? Because he threw in a dark horse team, a team that Bulls fans of a certain generation know quite well. They just unveiled their new jerseys for next season, and they look very, very 90s. It is the Utah Jazz. In Mark's column, which he takes a look at these 5 different teams that could be making big offseason moves. For each one, he says, here's a trade we would like to see. I don't know who the we is in that, alongside Bobby Marks, other ESPN people, other NBA people, whatever. But the trade he proposes in the Bulls offseason outlook is trading Zach to Utah for two seasoned veteran players who are pretty decent, John Collins and Jordan Clarkson. That is the proposed trade. No picks. Even as an offseason trade, it sounds like Utah would have the ability to bring in Zach's contract, and combined Collins and Clarkson's are fairly close to Zach's. Next season, let's see. They are under contract for Clarkson at 14.1, Collins at 26.6. They each have 2 years remaining on their deal. John Collins' second year of his remaining contract being a player option, whereas Clarkson just has 2 fully guaranteed years at just over $14 million. Dave, this is the first time we have heard this specific trade proposal for Zach LaVine. How do you feel about this compared to others that we have seen or talked about ourselves?
Okay, listen, I know we got to take a break, so I'm gonna keep this a little short and then expound on this when we come back. Yes, I would do this trade for lack of a better term. Those are the 2 best names I've heard in any Zach LaVine trade that has come up. Is those 2 names. What scares me is both of them I do not equate with winning at all. I don't equate John Collins with it, and I don't equate Jordan Clarkson with it. Maybe Jordan Clarkson a little bit more because I've seen him be that guy, take over a game and things like that. Of course, I start thinking fit and all that other stuff like that, and I'll get into that after the break. But off the top of my head, those are the best names I've heard be offered for one Zach LaVine.
They're players. They are players, and they are players that have strengths and weaknesses. We could talk about how they might fit in to a tweaked or retooled Bulls roster after we take this break. Because I was looking at some of their numbers as far as Collins with his injuries and then Clarkson with his efficiency. And there's some I like and some I don't like. So we will get to that on the other side of this break. If you didn't hit the like button the first time around, now's your chance. Do it for our friend Troll Joe, who is not going to have a good weekend unless you give him that like button that he always craves. Dave, who's next?
Pizza. Also a part of the summer peg diet is pizza. He's got to have it.
Gotta have it.
The place you got to go to get it, y'all. And I mean the right tavern style pizza, because Matt is very specific about that tavern style. The right one you got to have is at Salerno's, man. Just go on and stop by at Salerno's on tap, located at 1201 West Grand Avenue in Chicago's West Town. Enjoy that tavern style pizza and some of those frosty ice cold beers. Whether you're headed to the game, you want to watch it live on the big screen TV that they got there, or TVs, plural, that they have there, or you just want to pick it up and watch it at home, they got you covered any way you want to do it. Any way you want it, that's the way you need. Go to Salerno'sPizza.com or call 312-666-3444. That's Salerno'sPizza.com, and that number again is 312-666-3444. Mention CHGO and get half off of your pizza.
Half, Eddie.
Half. Don't treat me like animal. Get half off of your pizza at Salerno's on tap in Grand Avenue.
Speaking of Salerno's, shout out to our friends on the CHGO Blackhawks crew, because they are hosting, speaking of going to Salerno's to eat delicious pizza and watch sports, they're hosting a watch party for Stanley Cup Finals this weekend, I believe. So if you want to watch some dope hockey with some fellow hockey lunatics, our guys Greg and Jay from CHGO Hawks are going to be at Salerno's watching the Stanley Cup Finals. Go hang out with them. June 10th. Whether it's Stanley Cup or NBA, I am annoyed, Dave. We got to wait until Sunday for game 2.
Yeah. Well, what could you do in that time, Matt, but eat pizza and have Sunnyside and drink beers? And
I was going to say, I'll find a way to pass the time drinking beers on my roof.
I believe in you, Matt. I believe
you want to come over and drink beer on my roof until Sunday night when game 2 happens, Dave? You're welcome to come hang out. You too, Joe.
Let me think. I might do that.
Summer pack and full effect. Come on. Come hang out. We can order pizza. Speaking of great life choices, a reminder to sign up to become a CHGO diehard if you aren't already. Perks on perks on perks. You get a free shirt of your choice from the merch locker when you sign up, along with all of the other goodie bag items that you get in the mail. Your diehard care package, cool stickers and other stuff, official card member. And then, of course, 20% off every single time you shop at the CHGO merch locker. You got some Chicago sports fans in your life, friends, family, significant other, and you want to get them some super soft, super comfy, and super stylish Chicago sports themed gear, 20% off every time for you diehards out there. It's literally just pennies a day when you extrapolate our annual membership. And you get the best of the best content-wise. You get, of course, the access to the Diehards Only Discord channel, one Discord, CHGO Diehards, one for each team, and some of the upper echelon, high-quality content from our wide array of talented and credentialed sports writers and reporters at CHGO, including our own Will to Go Gottlieb. His NBA 2024 draft class database is up on allchgo.com right now. All kinds of great info and intel and analysis in there, only available to diehards. So sign up to become a diehard today. Join the Cool Kids Club. All right, diving back in to this conversation, and in the comments, shout out saying, I just want the record to reflect, I did say we needed Jordan Clarkson. Instant spark of offense for any team. So ripped saying he's taking that Zach to the Utah Jazz deal all day. Loki 1 saying quickly. Fish thinks Clarkson's okay. So look, let's start with Jordan Clarkson, because I think when you're talking about giving up Zach LaVine and replacing the offensive punch of Zach LaVine, Clarkson would be the one to replace a bit more of that offensive punch than John Collins, who can get buckets in his own right. But Clarkson, look, I believe it was last season, he averaged 20 points per game, nearly 21 points per game for Utah when he went into a starting role. He played 61 games. He started all 61 games in the 22-23 season. And a couple seasons before that, he won the NBA Sixth Man of the Year award as one of the best bench pieces on a Utah team that had not fallen apart and, essentially dissolved yet from the Mitchell and Rudy Gobert years, on a pretty decent team.
Yeah.
However, this season, 23-24, he managed just 55 games played, including missing the last month-ish of the season, with something that I do not like to hear when it comes to players who the Bulls might be trading for: joint inflammation in his back.
Oh my goodness.
That to me is a red flag. And when he was out there this season, his scoring dipped a bit. His minutes did too, but 17 points per game. Here's what I don't love. Jordan Clarkson shot 41.3% from the field this season. On 5.5 3-point attempts per game this season, he shot 29.5%. Jordan Clarkson shot like Vooch this season.
Yeah, that's not good and not great. And the other thing about Jordan Clarkson, and to be fair to him, he's never really been over like 45% from the field, like in his career. Like he always kind of hovers like around that. But I will say the difference in Utah is he got more bites of the apple. You know what I mean? He got much more attempts to get himself to those 15 points a game. So I believe, man, his 3-point attempts, you mentioned the 5, like the year before, we're talking 7. The year before that, 7. The year before that, 8. Like, this is all because he was in Utah. Like, he wasn't taking that many threes before that. Like, before, it was 4, it was 5, it was 3, he was playing on the Lakers and, a few other teams like that. So he was coming off the bench, but he had the green light when he was out there in Utah. And that's why those numbers go up. And that's what scares you, though, also, Matt, because those percentages from 3, when you're shooting on more attempts, but your percentages isn't going up or, getting better, it's looking like it's getting a little worse because you're dealing with the backiotomy. And that's never a good thing. And even his shots, just from the field, just almost 10 shots a game from the field, man. So the green light was his. He averaged the most points he's ever averaged in his career playing with Utah. And that will be the difference here. Is I don't think that light will be as green here on the team. But it, again, depends on who's here and who's going to be on the squad like that. But if he's coming in second unit, that's what he does. He's getting it. He's going one-on-one. He's dribbling it, and he's going to pull the trigger. And I don't know how that would fit here. I don't know. But I'll take it. I'll find out.
Mac Mon in the comments saying Clarkson gets buckets. It just takes him a lot of shots. Yeah, I mean he got up nearly 15 shots a game for Utah last season. In starting just 19 of the 55 he played. So he was primarily back to being a bench guy, and he got up 15 shots. So ripped in the comments saying they were tanking. I don't know if you're referring to why Clarkson sat for the last month of the season with the back inflammation, or if you're referring to Clarkson not being a very efficient shooter for Utah this season, and which one of those you're referring to when you're talking about Utah tanking. Maybe the injury. CJRT is saying, does Bobby Marks say why in the hell the Jazz would make this deal without a draft pick attached? Danny Ainge ain't dumb. So
It's true.
that goes back to what you were just asking me, Dave.
Yeah.
The version of Zach LaVine that we know exists in the not too distant past.
Mm-hmm.
You get that player giving up Clarkson and Collins. If LaVine buys in and fits into what you're trying to build in Utah, I think there is a world in which you feel good about that being an even trade, or maybe even a trade that you win if you're Danny Ainge. But again, it all hangs on the balance of what the hell version of Zach LaVine is going to show up for whichever team he's playing for at the start of the 24-25 season.
No, honestly, I think you're dead on that, Matt. I can see Danny Ainge kind of making that because of the best player in that trade is still Zach LaVine. Like,
yeah, I think anyone arguing that is just like a Zach hater. That's just, he's the best player of those three players.
It is like any six-man award included. Like he's still the best player out there on that
Clark's
squad.
Never been an all-star?
I don't think so.
No, he is not.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen for him that way. No. So I still think, that's a good move by Danny Ainge, especially in the position that he's in as far as rebuilding and, restarting and really going for it to win, getting somebody that's still in their prime of their career who's going to be healthy, coming back off the surgery that he had. He's going to be healthy. He's going to be ready to go and ready to play. And you can get that for a John Collins and a Jordan Clarkson. Like, it sounds like a good deal to me. That doesn't sound like a bad deal, like where I have to attach something to do that. So I can see Danny Ainge thinking in that mode, Matt, and making that trade. So I think it's a good trade, for both sides in a sense of, getting Zach off because they clearly understand that water has run dry here in Chicago. So they want to move on from that. And then Danny Ainge letting it be known that it's time for us to win. And I want to build a winning team here in Utah. So why not start it with that kind of player on your squad when you can get rid of those two guys right there? Because, again, I don't equate John Collins with winning. He's a good player, and we'll get into him, but I don't equate him with winning. Just like I said about Andre Drummond. I used to say that about Drummond also all the time, and then I get
he was a lifelong Detroit Piston.
Yes. And then I get the Shaq the Fool of the Year moment to add to my point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Our CJRT's in the comments saying Zach's definitely the best player in that trade. Sure. I just don't see the motivation when there are other deals out there. So my answer to you, CJRT, on that, and you bring up a fair point, is it's the same reason the Pistons might be interested.
Yeah.
If you're the Utah Jazz looking to add all-star level talent this offseason to a team that you've rebuilt in the post Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert era, who's picking Utah?
Yeah.
Other than Lowry, who's happy he wound up there because it reminds him of his homeland.
Yes, it does.
Who's picking Utah? No one picks Utah. I feel sorry for people in Utah. It's fucking Utah. So if you want to add star players in the NBA to your team that's based in Utah, also condolences to the poor bastards whoever end up playing there for their new NHL team. I'm still mad about the Coyotes being ripped away from Arizona. Shout out to our PHNX crew. But that's why. Why would they do that when there are other deals out there? Because they're the Jazz and they're going to get left out in the cold, pun intended, because no one's going to pick Utah. They have to trade for star talent in Utah.
And the other part of that, Matt, is what other caliber kind of all-star can you get for John Collins and Jordan Clarkson? Like who you getting for that? Like I'm sure they're going to go after Paul George. They're going to do their due diligence on those guys, but we can kind of take them off the table, right? Like those guys, though, I don't think they want to go there. Like, I just don't. So you're going to be coming around to players like Zach LaVine, who might be the best of the bunch that's left over. And again, Zach LaVine, talent-wise, who can you tell me that is available that the Bulls are willing, a team that's willing to take on those two dudes and those two contracts where you're like, okay, it's fine. Like I don't know who it is, and maybe you all can inform me of it, but I just don't know that kind of star that's available like that, like Zach LaVine is.
Right. So it's like Utah's not getting Paul George, obviously.
Right.
Maybe they lose out on Brandon Ingram because
Right.
there's some team that can offer Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans more than what Utah can offer.
Sure.
For a player in Zach's current situation, coming off of a season-ending surgery, did not look great in the limited amount of games he played this season, and does have those 3 years and 138 mil remaining on the deal. He still is a star caliber player if he comes back healthy and looks like the former version of himself. He's still in his age and athleticism prime.
Yes.
If he's healthy, that is a cheap get for an all-star caliber player in the grand scheme of things. Before we move to talk a bit more about John Collins, Dave, curious to hear your thoughts on this comment from our guy Fish, who said Clarkson is a guy who, quote, needs the ball in his hands, as they say. Yeah. What would you make of Clarkson fitting into a Bulls team sans Zach LaVine that maybe still has DeMar DeRozan on it and a young blossoming Kobe White?
Yeah, and that's the question we were kind of talking about before the break, was fit and how that would work. Now, obviously, DeMar DeRozan has the greenest light on the team if he's still there. Like, it's DeMar DeRozan. And Kobe White will probably have the second green light on that team. Clarkson, Matt, is interesting because we understand that with him, it takes more time to get those buckets. Like, he has to play more minutes, to get those buckets. He played, 30 minutes a game those past 2 seasons in Utah, and was like 27 or 26 coming off the bench or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Does Billy Donovan have that kind of patience if he comes out and he's clanking them up? You know what I mean? And he's turning
Ask
it over.
Javon Carter.
Exactly. Thank you, Matt. Way to be in my brain, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, he has shown you he don't have that kind of patience for those kind of things. And a guy who is not going to be a plus on the defensive end either. Jordan Clarkson is not a defender like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So having him out there just for the offense sake, dribbling the shot clock down, going in and maybe scoring and getting a bucket, and you're coming off the bench doing this, I could see Billy Donovan pulling him and telling him to have a seat, and him getting maybe 14, 15 minutes a game. And that could do something to the psyche of a guy like Clarkson because of how Billy is. And yeah, like, the only person I'm telling you that I think is allowed to do those things is DeMar DeRozan. Like, you have to prove it to Billy that he's like, oh, okay, you could go in and do those kind of things. But everything else has told me he wants an offense where the ball is moving and not getting stuck. It's the one thing we complained about a lot with DeMar DeRozan. Not how great he is, but just how it kind of, changes your offense, because he has to have the ball and he needs space and time to do with his thing. So you're giving me a guy who you can't tell me is on that same level of a DeMar DeRozan, and you're giving him that kind of minutes to figure that out. I ain't seen Billy do it. That's all I'm saying. I haven't seen him do it yet, Matt. If there's a game or a play you can name me that you've seen him have that kind of patience for, that's a veteran. Yeah. Then I'm all ears on that one, because we watch him not play Derrick Jones Jr. We just mentioned Javon Carter and how he did him. Like, Billy is quick to sit you. You know what I mean? Especially a veteran if it's not like that. So I don't know. That's why my issue comes up with as far as the fit is concerned, because I don't know.
Yeah. The fit would be interesting. And I do kind of agree. Like, if you want Jordan Clarkson to cook, you gotta give him the rock. And
you gotta give him the rock. Yeah.
If King DeMar is still here, how many shots is Clarkson taking away from DeMar?
Yeah, man.
I think my answer would be probably not many.
Not many.
As much as DeMar's like, hey, let's share the wealth and don't make me do everything. Well, yeah, we've watched for 3 years now where if the Bulls want to win, most often, no slight to Kobe or Zach, but DeMar's got to do most of the work.
Yeah. Matt, real quick, it would be different if he could hit threes too. It would be a whole different beat.
Totally. I mean, his career numbers are not as bad as that 29% that he shot this season, but again, this is what do the Bulls need? They need guys who can shoot, and Clarkson coming off of that season, I don't feel great about it. John Collins, on the other hand, is okay. So my first thought when I heard John Collins was, just giant injury flag. It seemed like he was always injured at the first third of his career playing in Atlanta. And I went back and I was like, yeah, okay, my memory serves correctly. From the 1920 season through the 21-22 season, his games played tallies were 41, 63, 54. That's a good chunk of games missed. Sure. But the past 2 seasons, being the last he spent in Atlanta and then this first season he spent in Utah, 71 and 68. You're like, okay, that's it. You know, John Collins got himself a bit healthier. You like to see that. As a big, you're like, okay, well, he could obviously play the 4. He could play the 5 in certain lineups, and as a 6'9" undersized center, because he has the length attached to that 6'9" frame. Does he give you elite level rim protection? No, I don't think that that's the player that John Collins is. I would also say that some of his defensive stats and advanced defensive metrics are not as good as you would expect them to be for a player like John Collins. But I also will give him a pass, at least partly, because those Atlanta teams he played on were not about defense. They just weren't.
They were not. That was not their MO out there at all. So I'll say this about John Collins. If we're just looking at him as far as numbers are concerned, he's pretty awesome. If you're just looking at the numbers, going by that, you can basically put it in pen that he's going to get you 12 points with 14 points and 7 to 8 rebounds, and be solid on the offensive rebound and tip as well.
Even had a 21 and 10 year in Atlanta in 1920.
Right, you know what I mean, and be a solid shooter also from the 3-point line. Now, he didn't shoot great, I believe, in the year before this one. He didn't shoot great.
Last season, he shot 29%.
Oh, it was that one. Okay,
this season, he got it back up to 37. He's a career 35.8% 3-point shooter on low volume. Has gradually built up from 1 or 2 a game in his early career. The past few years, it's been somewhere between 3 and 4 attempts per game,
which is fine. I don't really think of him taking 6 threes a game, like him hitting 3 or 4, but shooting a solid percentage, because you want him in the paint doing those things more so than anything. So honestly, it doesn't bother me. He takes 3. It's the fact that he's hitting them at a solid clip, and it's serviceable. It's a plus. It's having him at 3-point. It's still a plus. So that's cool too. I like the rebounding aspect of him, because first thing I think of is Patrick Williams, who is not going to be that rebounder, and I'm going to need one. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who wants to actually go down and do the dirty work, and then him being a solid offensive rebounder as well, I think is also a good thing as far as John Collins is concerned. A guy you can give the ball to on the post, you know what I'm saying, who can score buckets that way as well. Who he will shoot well over 50% from the field. That's just how he is. So honestly, I see his fit a little better than Jordan Clarkson's. The only issue I have is, again, it reminds me of getting somebody like Andre Drummond. I don't equate it with winning. I see bonehead plays happening. You know what I mean? Immediately. I just see those kind of things, dribbling off the foot, forgetting the time on the shot clock. You know what I'm saying? Throwing it back court, getting technical foul. I see those kind of things happening with the John Collins on your squad. But again, the Bulls are in a position where the beggars cannot be choosers. If they're going to give you somebody with talent like that, I don't know anybody that we've talked about, Matt, who has John Collins talent as far as who the Bulls can get back. And if you're telling me I can get that for Zach LaVine because nobody else is willing to offer somebody with that kind of talent, I mean, I rolled the dice on that, man.
Yeah. I mean, he's still obviously in his prime. He's 26 years old. He puts up, 15 and 8, 15 and 9. I mentioned the 121 and 10 year he had just regularly. When he's out there playing, when he's healthy, that's what he does. And that's a useful piece to have. Sure. And, I think I mentioned their contracts at the beginning of this conversation, but just to circle back to it, he's the richer player than Clarkson on these current contracts, $26.5 million. I saw somebody in the comments a minute ago saying Zach LaVine is not a max level player making $40 million. He's he should be making 25 at most. Well, welcome to today's NBA salary cap. John Collins makes $25 million.
Drink that in, ladies and gents.
Welcome to the financial realities of the NBA salary cap. Thanks for joining us. So, I mean, look, when he is healthy and playing well, that's not a terrible deal. He does have that player option on year 2. So for the 25-26 season, it could be an interesting fit. What I thought about also, Dave, is, okay, we're bringing in John Collins. Does he nudge out Patrick Williams in this hypothetical universe? Because Collins can play the 4 next to Vooch. You finally get a bit more size in your starting 5 that Bulls fans have been clamoring for, instead of all these Billy Donovan small ball, billions of guards lineups. in like parentheses, yeah, let's blame Billy for that. Hey, he works with the roster that he's been given. But maybe Patrick Williams stays because the Bulls match an offer sheet for him or sign him to a new deal, and you slide Patrick to the 3, which is something else other Bulls fans have talked about wanting to see. But oh wait, then where's DeMar? So trying to fit the John Collins piece into the puzzle, if you're talking about John Collins in your starting 5,
yeah,
it's hard to figure out where he goes.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and in my mind, man, I wasn't even thinking of him as a starter, and I hope nobody else was, because the Bulls are. I just feel they're gonna keep Patrick Williams. One, because that's their guy, and 2, because as we tell you all the time, it's a Bulls classic. They love holding on to their toys,
dude. Since his rookie season when he played 74 and started 26. Since then, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons worth of games, John Collins has played but not started in 5 games.
Wow.
5 games spanning the past 6 seasons, Collins has played but not started.
Wow. That's saying something, ladies and gents. And so to come to the Bulls and you're like, I'm going to start Patrick Williams over him? That's a great question that Matt's bringing up.
Tobias Harris over me?
Right. Yeah.
Patrick Williams over me?
Because, of course, you can see it working. If you're talking about the bench, you're like, cool, I could just sign Pat to the 3. I could slide Collins to the 4, and everything works out. Or even
if Pat put up 15 and 8 over a season, Bulls fans would be apoplectically happy.
Oh, my gosh. So, yes, that brings up that kind of question. Back to AK, back to Bobby Marks. What changes are you talking about making? You know what I'm saying? What are you talking about doing? Because you can then make that trade. And honestly, I think you're on board with this too. If trading for these guys for Zach, right?
It's one of the better deals that I've heard.
Okay.
It does not involve sending draft capital along with Zach to get off of his contract.
Yes, exactly. It helps you sleep a little bit better at night. Extra 30 minutes for Matt at night. You know what I'm saying? He gets to sleep. So it rounds it up to
30 minutes is all I need, baby.
That's it. So I said 2 hours and 30 minutes is all you're probably getting. So so that gets you that. And that's fine. And because you have to leave with something. The fact that you can leave with something after this. Because guys, think about the other names being brought up. You've heard Wiseman. You know what I mean? You heard Harrison Barnes. You know, Herder. You know, Davion Mitchell. You know what I'm saying? Like, what guys can tell that have that talent of a guy like Collins, that versatile kind of talent of a guy like Collins, you know, who just maybe needs a little coaching and needs to stay healthy, as Matt keeps pointing out. But the dude's a starter in this league. And like him at the 4, you see it. You know what I mean? Like, you see where it is, you see where it fits. So you're like, well, if you're gonna sign Patrick, well, DeMar, like what are you gonna do? What are you going to do? Are you saying I'm gonna sign Patrick to $100 million and then bring him off the bench? That's what you're gonna tell me? Like, y'all got some interesting decisions to make. Especially if you make this kind of trade.
Just start DeMar next to Kobe. Just put him in the backcourt.
Put him back at the 2. That's where he started. That's where it all started for DeMar.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean,
where else does he go?
Where else does he go?
Yeah. How do you fit Collins into your starting 5 if DeMar and Pat are both back on new deals this summer, which is looking more and more likely? We're talking about finding a trade for Zach LaVine and that being the front office's top priority this summer.
How about you find a way to trade Vooch for a bag of Doritos and you move Collins to the 5? How about we do that? I'll cheat with him at the 5. How about that?
Hey, man. Yeah. As long as he shoots 29% on 5 or 6 3-point attempts per game, you gotta fill that void. Got to fill that Vooch void. My God. Shout out to Charlie Ruby in the comments who said, "I'll just take whatever at this point."
I'm just saying, man. Like, it's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal. The issue comes in with the fit, and if you're keeping DeMar DeRozan, that's where the issues start to occur. If you're not keeping DeMar, you see where everything kind of falls into place as far as having these 2 guys on the team. But they've got to make that decision. I'm telling you, this is going to be an interesting time in these next couple weeks, man. It's going to be an interesting time here in Chicago.
D Grant, shout out in the comments saying, "I'm a Knicks fan. When are you guys going to get your next MJ so we can trash you guys?" Is that how it went when we had an MJ?
Yeah. I don't know if you remember that. I went like that, my man Grant. But,
how did those years go? How did those playoff series go?
I'd be happy to tell you about them.
Show me all those banners that Ewing and Starks won together in the 90s. What are you talking about, man?
Show me the banners you won with Mike there. Yeah. Show me those banners, ladies and gentlemen. Don't do this. Don't do this to yourself. Do this because I would love to have these discussions with you. How about the greatest dunks in Bulls history are both on the Knicks? Like, I would love to have these discussions with you. Stripping Charles Smith. Oh, God. Euphoric.
8 times, 9 times, 10 times?
Yeah.
Condolences on losing that playoff series to the Indiana Pacers, man. I mean, that's got to be rough. Talking a lot of shit in the first half of that series. When will Knicks fans learn, Dave? When will they learn?
Never. They'll be doing the same thing next year. Wish you luck. You got a great one in Brunson, though. I'll give you that. Brunson is awesome. Brunson is awesome, man. So, but yeah. No, you don't want another MJ again. You don't want to do that to yourself. You don't want that.
MJ would go to the Garden tonight and drop 60 if he felt like it.
Dude,
we are out of time. Appreciate everybody for hanging out with us today and all week. Reminder, if you didn't catch it, yesterday's episode was a fun one. We had our friend Darnell Mayberry on in studio with us, Bulls beat reporter for The Athletic. We talked to him about his scathing column, asking 10 big questions that the Bulls are facing this offseason, including this Zach LaVine stuff that we were just talking about today. So go back and give that a listen or a watch if you haven't yet. And have a wonderful weekend. We will be back Monday with a fresh dose of 5 episodes for y'all, as we will be all off season long for you Bull sickos out there just like us who can't get enough. Can't get enough of that torture. Big Dave, Joey, I'm going up to the roof. I'm bringing a cooler full of beers. Come over, play some bags. Summer is here. Let's enjoy it.
Summer pack is in effect, ladies and gents.
Big Dave is at PAL, BAWL Sports. Our PAL producer, Joey, behind the controls is at Joey's Path. Also follow our guy, Will the Goat, who's down in Mexico for a wedding this weekend. Will_Gottlieb. Safe travels to him. Hope he's having fun. We are CHGO Bulls, and we will talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend, Bulls Nation. See Red, be good.
Peace. Love.